जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Welcome back. So we are continuing our discussion on the term Sanatan. Sanatan means eternal, and Sripad Ramanujacharya explained. We went through those discussions in the last session. He explains that Sanatan means something that doesn't have beginning or end. Right? So that is the meaning of Sanatan. So today, continuing with the same discussion, Prabhupada discuss about what is dharma. So dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with a particular object. So in this case, the object is the living entity or soul, or actually us. So something which exists with us eternally. That is actually that is the dharma of that living entity, and that doesn't change. Even if we change the faith over here means religion, according to our contemporary understanding. So somebody may be Hindu, somebody may be Muslim, Sikh, Buddhism, or whatever faith they have. The faith they can change, but even if they change the faith, something remains constant with them. So that is actually Sanatan Dharam of that living entity. And here more example is given. We conclude that there is heat and light along with the fire. Without heat and light, there is no meaning of the word fire. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. So this is the definition of the dharma of that living entity, that remains with the living entity no matter where he goes, and it is remaining with the living entity eternally. Actually, it is there with the living entity from time immemorial, right? That constant companion is his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion. So that is what the dharma means. So like you cannot separate sweetness from sugar, is inseparable. Similarly, heat from fire, right? They are inseparable things. So similarly, there is something with the soul which is eternally there. So what is that? That is being discussed here. So then there is a nice discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatan Goswami. So Sanatan Goswami is the eldest of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami were instructed directly by Lord Chaitanya. And then towards the probably later stage in their life, they were serving in the governments of at that time the Mughals were ruling, so they were serving there. But then they you know gave up their job, and then they started writing the instruction which was given to them by Lord Chaitanya in the form of books, in form of writings for us. And Rupa Goswami is our Sampradaya Acharya. So, right? We are also called as Rupanugas. So we are followers of Rupa Goswami and even Sanatan Goswami. So Rupa Goswami's elder brother is Sanatan Goswami. So when Sanatan Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the Swarupa of every living being, the Lord replies that the Swarupa or constitutional position of the living being is rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Meaning, what is the eternal thing the living entity is doing in its original position, in the spiritual world. So this is the Swarupa which we saw in the beginning of the introduction. Prabhupada describes this Swarupa or constitutional position or eternal position of the living entity. That is Swarupa. And then Swarupa Siddhi is, right now we are in the material world, but when we go back to Godhead, then we get back our original position. Right now that position is vacant because we have left that particular job which we were doing, and we came back to the material world. So when we go back to that same position, that is Swarupa Siddhi. So when Sanatan Goswami asked Lord Chaitanya, he says, Jive Swarupa Krishner Nityadas, or Nitya Krishna Das. Sometimes Prabhupada says like that. So this is actually the verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita where this question is being raised, and actually Lord Chaitanya is answering that question. So I have put that as a reference. Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishner Nitya Das. Nitya means eternal. Krishna means Krishna, of course, Lord Krishna. And what is the Swarup? Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishner Nitya Das. So he is the eternal servant of Krishna. Right? So, and he's a part and parcel of Krishna. So then there are more description, but this was the point that was brought up by Lord Chaitanya. How are we all rendering service? So now we understood that what is our original position or Swarupa. So we are Krishna's eternal servant. Now we see that that same tendency we follow when we come to this material world. So that is being explained now with example. If we analyze the statement of Lord Chaitanya, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. How is that? A living being serves another living being in various capacities. By doing so, the living entity enjoys life. So then, to explain this particular point, Prabhupada gives the answer. The lower animals serves human beings as servants, serve their masters. So if we see that in India particularly we have encountered that that donkeys, the other kinds of animals are used for some kind of service. The lower animals serve human beings as servant, serve their masters, and then Prabhupada says that A serves master B, B serves master C, or C master, and C serves D master, and so on. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend. The mother serves the son, the wife serves the husband serves the wife, and so on. If we go on searching in this spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of the living beings to the activity of service. The politicians present his manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity for the service. Right? The politicians, they claim that please elect me so that I can serve you better. Similarly, whatever examples are given above, if we think about it carefully, we'll see that each living entity is trying to serve other. And when they try to serve, actually, when they derive happiness in doing the service. Right? The voters therefore give their politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render valuable service to the society. The shopkeeper serves the customer, and the artisan serves the capitalist. The capitalist serves the family, and the family serves the state in the terms of eternal capacity. In the terms of the eternal capacity of the eternal living being. So, in this way, actually, each one of us is serving somebody else in some capacity, some way or other. In this way, we can see that no living being is exempt from rendering service to other living beings. And therefore, we can safely conclude that service is the constant companion of the living being, and that the rendering of service is the eternal religion of living being. So, now the conclusion has come to that what is that eternal thing, or what is the dharma. So the dharma is service. We do service to other living entities, right? Originally we are meant to do service to Krishna. Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das, right? That is original position. But when we come from the spiritual world to the material world, then in that situation actually we are performing service to various different either living beings or animals, or that way we are trying to serve each other and enjoy in that way. But then the next point is brought over here is the difference between religious faith and Sanatan Dharma. So, what is that uh, difference? And the difference is, yet men professes to belong to a particular type of faith with reference to particular time and circumstances, and thus claim to be Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or an ardent of any other sect. Such designations are non-Sanatan Dharma. So the religious faith which a particular person has, that religious faith is a non-Sanatan thing, because people can change their faith. We are seeing a lot of conversions happening in different religions, and you know even if they change the faith, under whatever circumstances it may be, but ultimately after changing the faith also they are performing the same um, dharma of serving each other. So that's what is being explained here. A Hindu may change a faith to become a Muslim, or a Muslim may change a faith to become a Hindu, or a Christian may change his faith, and so on. But in all circumstances, the change of the religious faith does not affect the eternal occupation of rendering service to other. So even if you change faith, you constantly keep on doing the service. So that is actually the Sanatan Dharma. The Hindu, the Muslim or Christians in all circumstances are servant of someone. Yeah. So even if we change our faith, the underlying tendencies to serve others will not change. Thus, to profess a particular type of faith is not to profess one's Sanatan Dharma. So even that's what this Prabhupada is trying to say, that even if you're in any kind of faith, it doesn't matter, but you are still performing your Sanatan Dharma. The rendering of service is Sanatan Dharma. So this is the definition of Sanatan Dharma, that rendering of a service to any living entity or anything, anybody, even to the animals or trees or anything, then that is the eternal service, is eternal dharma of that living entity. Now, how are we actually related with the Lord? So that will be discussed here. So as discussed by Lord Chaitanya earlier, that Jeever Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. So this is being discussed, that how are we related with the Lord? Eternally. Factually, we are related to the Supreme Lord in service. So this is our position. We are related with the Lord in service. The Supreme Lord is a supreme enjoyer, and we are living entities and are His servitors. Right? So that is our original position. Supreme Lord is original enjoyer or supreme enjoyer, controller, proprietor, and enjoyer, and we are His servants. We are participating in His enjoyment. Right? So we are created for His enjoyment, and if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we become happy. So that is our purpose. If you want to become really happy and contented or satisfied, then that highest satisfaction is achievable by the soul when he renders service to the Lord. We cannot become happy otherwise. So we try to become happy by serving others, and it must be done in this world. We must have a tendency to serve, so we will serve, but we will not receive the highest happiness even while doing so. It is not possible to be happy independently, just as no part of the body can be happy without cooperating with the stomach. So it is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. So without giving or without doing this particular duty of serving the Supreme Lord, the living entity cannot be happy. So that's a point which is being discussed here. So in conclusion, the Sanatan Dharma of the living entity is to render service to the Supreme Lord. And we have a relation with Him, and currently that relationship is not active, but when we study Srimad Bhagavad Gita in details, then we know about our relationship, and then we gradually practice to getting reinstated into that position from where we can render service to the Supreme Lord directly. So the next topic is about worship of the demigods, and this is a very kind of controversial topic, normally associated with ISKCON. Why it is controversial? Because people have a notion that ISKCON doesn't support or doesn't like demigod worship, and that is not correct actually. In fact, Krishna is explaining that demigod worship is not approved by him. So, and there is a reason why demigod worship is not approved. So, in order to understand that, I have to give some background, because a very short description is given here. So, we will have to go into some other details before going through this particular paragraph. And the other details is, we generally, before reading the introduction, we go through a course called as Discover Yourself. So in Discover Yourself, we explain all those concepts of demigod and who they are, what is their role, and all those in details. So what I have done is I have part of that presentation, I will bring it up over here and try to go through that who those demigods are and what are their roles. So let's first go through this particular diagram, and then we go into the understanding of the demigod. So here, if we see, this is one universe, as I showed in this picture last time. There's one universe, and in that one universe there are different planetary systems. So when we zoom into this diagram, we see that it says you are here, means we are in this Earth or middle planetary system, and there are 7 planetary systems above us, and there are some below us actually. Sorry, there are 6 above us, and we are the middle, the 7, and then there are 7 below us. So these are lower planets, these are higher planets, and in the middle planetary system, this is where on the Earth we reside, somewhere in any part of the Earth, right? So higher than us is the Bhuvar Loka, where the Rakshasas and ghosts are there, and then above that is Swarga Loka or Indra Loka or heavenly planets. That's where is the residence of all the Devatas. So here we see some pictures of the Devatas. Lord Ganesha is there, and then other demigods are there. So there are 33 crores demigods. It's written here. See, realm of 33 million demigods and demons. They are residing in the Swarga Loka. So in India, most of us have heard about Swarga. Swarga is a place of actually the residence of the Devatas, and above that is Maharloka, above that is Janaloka, above that is Tapaloka, above that is Satyaloka. So in Satyaloka actually you see the picture of Lord Brahma. He is the secondary creator of this particular universe. So we see here one universe, and in this one universe, Lord Brahma's role is the secondary creator. So he doesn't create the universe, or he doesn't create this shell of the universe, but within this shell these are planetary systems. So he is creating all these planetary systems. How does he create? He will be given at the end of the day of Brahma, there's a destruction that happens, and after that the recreation of the things happen based on the template which is given to Brahma, and then template is given by the Lord himself. So then we go down from our earthly or the middle planetary system, that is so these are the lower planets, which are Atal, Vitala, Sutala, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal and Patal. So these are subterranean heavenly planets. And as I said, as we go in detail study of Bhagavad Gita, we'll know more and more about these topics. And then below that is the Naraka planets or hellish planets, where people go or the soul goes for punishment. So this is the place where we incur karma, and to enjoy those fruits of our karma, you know, the living entity go higher and higher into the higher planets, right? And there is more better form of enjoyment. So in the earth also we'll see, the certain places have good form of enjoyments, certain places doesn't have it, and there's a lot of suffering. But similarly, there the enjoyment in the heavenly planets or planets above us is much more compared to earth. And there is also in these lower planets also there is a lot of enjoyment. But for the punishment, the living entity is sent in this area. It's not in this picture, they have not shown it, but there is another picture I'll bring up next time and show that there are Naraka Loka is in this region. To maintain all the activities in this universe, then we require some person who can look after things. So let's go through this presentation very quickly, where these things are explained, and I will quickly go over the details. So as we know, I'm from Seattle, so we have Microsoft and we have many other companies, but the Microsoft example was picked up. So Microsoft, as we know, that it's an organization, and it's a organization not only in United States, but it is all over the world, and they have many branches in different countries, right? And it's a well managed multinational corporation with operations all around the world. And then to run this, there is a person. Now when these slides were prepared, it was Bill Gates, but now it is Satya. But anyway, the point is that there's a person who runs the show, right? He decides what needs to happen in the organizations. So who is behind this universal manifestation which we see? Does it go on their own? Actually, Veda says that no, it doesn't run on its own. Nothing runs automatically. There is no concept of automatic. It is all, everything is controlled. It's just that we don't know. So who is behind this gigantic manifestation? So then the example can be given that in a country also, if you see, the country is made up of men. We say it government, but actually government means ultimately there are people who are maintaining that government, and the head of that government is the president, and then below them is different minister of finance, minister of home affairs, and defense. So this is at the country level. Then we come to the state level, then there is homeland security or industries, defense, finance. That's a second level. Then there is a county level, right? And then you can go to the city level, and then they have their offices also. So there's a building where all their work is conducted. So the comparisons can be made that home, these are different ministries of activities which we see in the normal government. Law and order, but defense is for protection, finance is for wealth and currency, power is electricity, health is healthcare and medicine, and for education they have education for public ministry, and their activities giving education to people. Similarly, domestic supplies, food, water, etc. Hygiene and sanitation, cleanliness, hygiene and sanitation, etc. departments are there. And then there is a best citizen award kind of activity where people who do good work to the society, they'll be given awards. So similarly, in the universal form of government, the home is law of karma. Home ministry can be equated with law of karma, and defense can become, defense department can be at the individual level or at the higher level, like protection of the layer of earth which is there. It's called as ozone layer, and within our body there is immune system. And then for every animals, they have been given different kind of protection system. Somebody have their claws, they have either shells, etc. And then for wealth can be compared to gold, silver, mines, and the pearls and precious metals, etc. power supply can be compared to sun, moon, water, and other things, source of energy, which is given free to us actually. And then medicine system like Ayurveda and naturopathy, etc. And then for education, Vedas and religious other scriptures. And similarly, for the domestic supply, the rain, grains, fruits, these are all provided to us by the universal government. So, and then similarly, rainfalls and oxygen recycling, trees, sunlight. So, there are so many things. I mean, if you keep on reading this, there are so many things which we actually, we don't take notice, but these are all happening automatically. We think it's happening automatically, but no, this is actually being controlled. So, how is that being controlled? So, is there a person behind it? And surely there is a person behind it, and that person is Lord Shri Krishna, who is actually the president of the whole system. And then under him, there are people who are working, and they are heading different department. For example, for the rain department, it is Lord Indra. Also, he is the manager of all the demigods. Right? He is Devendra. He is the king of the demigods. And then there is a Vayu Dev. Then there is Agni Dev. Vayu Dev means controller of air. Agni Dev is controller of fire. So this way, when we see, there are so many departments which is needed to run the affairs in this whole system. And how many are really needed? Actually, there are 33 million demigods or devatas needed to run the show. And they are a huge number actually, and they do so many activities, and each of the demigods are person like you and me, but they have been given more powers, so that they can control things. They can control rain, they can control sea, they can control water, they can control the food grains. Everything is controlled actually. They can control the animals, they control the activities in the body of the animal. In fact, all the activities of our body is actually controlled by the devatas, like our blinking of an eye. That is, one devata is responsible for the blinking of an eye. One devata is responsible for digestion of our food. So there are so many descriptions given how devatas actually help to run the show. But the problem is we can't see them actually. And when we normally believe that whatever we see exists and what we don't see don't exist. So the point is that Krishna explains that all these things are happening in this world, or the things are governed in this world with the help of the devatas. They are the controllers. And above them, or the creator of all this is Brahma. So with this, actually, I'm going to stop here, and then we'll continue with the discussion of the demigods, or understanding who they are, their roles, and then why Krishna is actually not recommending worshipping the demigods. So worshipping and respecting, these are two different things. We must respect even the smaller things, like even the ants or any small insects. We should not even kill them. So what about the demigod? We must definitely respect them, respect their position, recognize them, ask for their help so that they can help us to move towards Krishna. So this is actually recommended by Krishna. What is not recommended, we are going to discuss that in our next session. Okay. So with that, we'll stop here and continue next time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gaur Premanande Haribol.